Hi folks, hope everybody's okay. It's good to be with you. Just be 2 seconds. Hope everybody's okay. Love to everybody out there. Just having a cup of tea and yeah. Oof. Hope everybody's okay, and happy Christmas to everybody. I'm just feeling a bit tired and tired out today. But Merry Christmas to everybody, and hope everybody's done your shopping and whatever you need to do. So hope everybody's okay out there. I'm just going to share a scripture and say a little prayer, and I'm going to read Psalm 27. It says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? When evil men advance against me to devour my flesh, when my enemies and foes attack me, they will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then will I be confident. One thing I asked of the Lord, and this is what I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, and to seek him in his temple. For in the day of trouble he will keep me safe in his dwelling, and he will hide me in the shelter of his tabernacle, and set me high upon a rock. Then my head will be exalted above the enemies who surrounded me. At his tabernacle will I sacrifice with shouts of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord. Hear my voice when I call, O Lord. Be merciful to me and answer me. My heart says of you, seek his face. Your face, Lord, I will seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my helper. Do not reject me or forsake me, O God of my Saviour. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me in a straight path because of my oppressors. Do not hand me over to the desires of my foes. The false witness rise up against me, breathing out violence. I am still confident of this, and I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord." I just wanted to share a few things. Today, I have to prepare a sermon for Sunday morning, so that's what I'll be doing this Saturday afternoon. So I'll be studying that. I studied it yesterday for the sermon, which is on Joshua chapter 1, verse 1 to 9. So that's what I'll be doing my sermon on in the morning. And so I'll be busy with that this afternoon. And then I'm organising a Christmas meal for the church. The pastor's asked me to be in charge of organising that. So we're having a Christmas meal on Christmas Day. 3 turkeys are being cooked. 1 turkey is being cooked here. Another turkey is being cooked at another place. And another turkey is being cooked at another place. So that's 3 different places So it's going to be quite interesting to try and organise all the elements together and get everybody there on time with the food. So pray that it will go okay, because I'm getting a bit stressed about it. I'm okay organising a little bit, but big projects like that, I'm not really a great organiser. I organised the mission for the church a few weeks ago. We had a full week of evangelism, and that went well. But that's my forte. That's what I do. So that was okay. But to organise a Christmas meal, to get the food there, to get everything ready, it's not my idea of a Christmas. But so long as it's done and everybody enjoys it, that's the main thing. So pray for that, please. And that's it really on my front. So I'm doing a sermon today, and then later on I've got to go and get a few bits. Little bit of shopping for. Got to get the spuds, the carrots, sprouts. I'm not a great sprout fan, to be honest. I do like turkey, and I like it with lots of cranberry and apple sauce. And I like the skin on turkey. I like the skin on chicken too, especially when it's crackly. And I like the little bacony bits of the little sausages that go around it, which is good. I like that. Yeah, so I'm doing the sermon today. I've done quite a bit of study on it. Looking back on the year, it's been a good year for me. There's been ups and downs. There was the downs with some of the atheists and controversies and things like that. And but it's been a good year, really. I was asked to preach I went down south a few months ago to preach at a it was a young people. It was a singles group, and there's a lot of single people there. I don't know. There's about 30, 40 single people from different churches, mainly Reformed evangelical churches. And I was asked to go and speak, and I preached on humility, and everybody was blessed. And I hadn't preached like that in a conference setting for a long time, and my preaching was really blessed, and people were really encouraged by it. And recently, over the last 6-7 weeks, I've been doing a lot of preaching again in church, Bible study, preaching, lecturing, and it's been great. I've been doing a little bit of pastoral care. I've made a pastoral visit, and helping on a leadership team, and it's been good because I felt for the first time in my life, really, in church, for the first time ever in church, I felt part of a family, feel part of a family. And so I love the pastor there, who's there. He's a young man. And even though I pastored churches and I've led churches, I don't mind him being the pastor. I don't mind being a support to him and encouragement to him and getting behind him. because I know when you're in leadership, you very rarely get a lot of support. So it's been a good year because I feel really part of a family, you know. And it's busy time, you know. There's lots to do, and there'll be lots to do in the new year. I'll probably be involved in the new year, getting a lot of things off the ground. Maybe, possibly, a children's work, a youth work, a regular evangelistic program and things like that. So I'm going to be busy. Like I said, I feel part of the family. Yeah, I feel really at home in this place. For the first time in my life, I feel part of a family. It's difficult because I seem to be given a lot of jobs to do. There's a lot of things to do because we haven't got many people and there isn't a big leadership team. So for example, on Sunday, I'll be with one. Hopefully, we'll get one or two others. But we went to the Sally Army on Thursday. I took the pastor and another member of the leadership team to a Salvation Army Day Centre, where the manager gave us 3 bags of toys. Well, not 3 bags. No, there was. Sorry, not 3. Put it this way: my boot was full of bags, and the back seat was full of bags. So much so that I have to go back to the church, drop the stuff at the church, and then drive back. And the pastor didn't have his car, so I had to go to the day centre, take him there. We took the other leader. We had a great chat with the manager, chat with the people who go there, led someone to the Lord together, me and the pastor, then collected all these bags. So there must have been about 5 or 6 plastic bags full of toys in the boot, and a whole back seat full. So I don't know, 15, 20 bags full of toys. So I don't know where I was coming from saying 3. So on Sunday, I'm going to be wrapping these toys up with a couple of other people, hopefully. I was asked by a lady if she's doing it. So I hope that we get a couple of more people to help us, because I don't fancy wrapping toys all Sunday afternoon. So yeah, and then on Thursday I took the bus. I came back down with the bags of toys, dropped them off at the church, went back to the day centre, picked up the pastor, and I took him to the south side of Manchester to get his car, because his car was out of action. So in other words, the top and bottom of it is the church is beginning to take up quite a lot of time, which is challenging, because I haven't been in church life like that for about 6 years. I've been going to church, and I've been sitting in Bible studies. I went to a big church for a while, sat in at the back, went to a small church for a while, listened to the Bible teaching, which was superb Bible teaching, absolutely superb. But this is the first time I'm fully immersed in church, and also on the leadership team. So it's good. I feel part of a family, but I feel it's very challenging because I'm not used to that. But I've been out of that for a while. So if you could pray for me that I continue to do well and settle in, because I'm doing well at the moment. I'm settling in and fully part of the church and stuff, so that's good. And I really wanted that. I mean, I really prayed about that. I prayed to the Lord and said, Lord, I really want to be part of a family, you know. And I'd like to serve. I'd like to use my gifts, you know. And the pastor lets me preach, and you know, lets me get on and do what I feel I'm good at. We have 3 meetings a week so far, and he put me in charge of organising these meetings. So that's a big responsibility that weighs heavily on me, because we have to make sure that we do it well. So that's where I am in church life. Heavily involved in church. It's busy, stressful sometimes, but it's rewarding. Some great people, and it's just good to be back in there serving the Lord. So that's been good. So we had that. I preached at that conference, at that youth meeting, which went really down really well. I preached at the church, at my home church. I'm preaching there, involved there. I think the disappointment of the year is, you know, getting into these controversies with the atheists. I just feel that they don't do me any good. They tend to get me depressed. They tend to involve me in really things that it's not me really, and then I lose my stride. I lose my temper, which I shouldn't do, and that isn't me. You know, I'm better than that, and so I'm disappointed in that. But I think that, you know, I think that God can use that, and you know, people understand, I think, where things are at, and I think God can use that anyway. I think the other great thing is the work that was done in the year. A lot of work was done. I went to a lot of towns, a lot of cities. Went to Leeds, Sheffield, Liverpool, many cities and towns. I went with a team regularly over the year to universities, and had some great conversation with university students, hundreds of them. So that's Leeds University, Liverpool University, went to Bradford University, Preston University, Bangor. So I went to a variety of universities, taught to a lot of students. Many Chinese gave their hearts to the Lord that we saw. Many taught to many Muslims, many agnostics, and what was a delight is a lot of the students were impressed when they were talking to me, because we'd end up talking about philosophy or history or whatever, and they were impressed that I'd done background reading and stuff. So I got a lot of students to listen to what I had to say, because they knew when I was talking about the resurrection or historical stuff, they knew what I was talking about. So that was great. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the student work. I also went to, so I did that with a team. There was a team of us, and we had some great times doing that. And then near the end of the year, it seemed to slump off a bit. But then there was a guy who I absolutely is like a brother to me. I just, if you're around, bro, you know who I mean. His name begins with B, and he's a great friend. And he would come out with me, and we'd go out together. And we went to Leeds city centre. We went to Liverpool quite a few times, and then it tapered off at Liverpool. Then we went to Llandudno. We went to Wigan. We went to Warrington a few times. Went to Chester a few times, and we had some really good times together. And that was excellent. As time went on, I began to develop better as a street preacher. I kind of moved away from Manchester, central Manchester, for a couple of reasons. One is because of Cliff Jumper, really. He did traumatise me, and I didn't want to go regularly in Manchester, and that happened to me again. So I began to travel around. And also because of the dangers of ISIS and things like that, it's best just to be traveling around so people don't know where you're going to be on a regular basis. So that's why I kept out of Manchester as more and didn't go into Manchester as much. So the evangelism went really well over the year, reached a lot of people, worked with some good people, reached a lot of students, went into city centres and towns, and saw quite a few people give their heart to the Lord. I think over the year I've grown stronger, stronger in my faith, stronger in my understanding of the Bible. I think that I still struggle at times. Sometimes it is difficult, but I think that on the whole, I think there's been a sea change this year. I think that I'm back to 100% who I am, 100% back to what I was 6 years ago, but even better. I'm a bit tired today, so forgive me. So I am back to the old Jay, but also a lot better than I was. I had my ups and downs, as you can see on YouTube. Sometimes the stresses would come out, and you could see that coming out. But I think that was part of the healing process, part of the I can't hide who I am. I wear my heart on my sleeve. If I'm going to cry, I'll cry. If I'm going to laugh, I'll laugh. I'm not very good at hiding the way I feel. I can't pretend in that sense. I think that so I think, like, emotionally, I think it's been a very important year for me in healing. I think I've come to a point where I feel back to normal, back to the old Jason Burns, and I think it's been a good year for intellectual growth. I've read a lot of books over the year. This book, Jesus and the Eyewitnesses, Richard Balcombe, is just one kind of book. Excuse me. But quite a few books. in historical Jesus studies, in principally the church fathers. I've read quite a lot about the church fathers, about quite a bit about the Gnostic Gospels, a few academic works on the canon of Scripture, countless articles, academic papers in philosophy, epistemology, theology. I enjoyed this year, I immensely enjoyed, one of my favourite books this year that I enjoyed was this book. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It's called The Mystery of Reason by Paul Hafner, Grace Wing Publishers. I really enjoyed this. It was a pure delight. It was an absolute pure delight. The Mystery of Reason by Paul Hafner, Grace Ewing. Grace Wing Publishers, 2001. Grace Wing Publishers, 2001. Paul Hafner. The Mystery of Reason investigates the enterprise of human thought searching for God. People have always found stepping stones to God's existence, carved in the world and in the human condition. This book examines the classical proofs of God's existence, affirms the continued validity. It shows that human thought can connect with God and with other aspects of religious experience. Moreover, it depicts how Christian faith is reasonable and neither blind nor naked. Without reason, belief would degenerate into fundamentalism, but without faith, human thought can remain stranded on the reef of its own self-sufficiency. This book proposes that the mind must be in partnership with human heart in the quest for God. Paul Hafner, a priest of the Diocese of Portsmouth, England, obtained his first degree in physics at Oxford University in 1976. He went on to philosophical and theological studies, gaining the degree of Doctor in Sacred Theology at the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome in 1987. At present, he is a lecturer in systematic and dogmatic theology in Rome at the Pontifical Gregorian University, the Pontifical Lateran University, and the Pontifical Athenaeum Regina Apostolorum. His publications include Creation, Scientific Creativity, a study in thought of Stanley L. Jackie, and The Mystery of Creation, a methodology of term papers and theses, the sacramental mystery. Now, I don't want anybody to think that I've become a Catholic. I'm not a Catholic. I have no intentions of becoming a Catholic. But in terms of philosophy and the history of philosophy and how it relates to Christianity, and looking at epistemology, I really, absolutely love this book. It was just a wonderful read. And you can see, you can't see it here, but there is just loads of notes that I made in this book. I did a series of videos on this book, so go and watch those videos. I can't remember what the series was called, but this, I just loved it. Absolutely loved that. I'm not just saying it, but I devoured that. I really devoured it. And just trying to... Another book that I enjoyed reading, I thought was amazing, is God's Undertaker, Has Science Buried God by John C. Lennox, by Lion Publishers. I absolutely love reading this book. It's two books, one on militant atheism and this book, With the Weight in Gold. But I really enjoyed that. So those, I think those were the three main books. That the Balkan book which I always seem to be going back to, the mystery of reason, and that. Listen to a lot of lectures. I've listened to all. I've virtually read nearly everything of Gary Habermas now. I've listened to nearly everything of Gary Habermas. The same goes for Lycona. So I've been finishing up the last few lectures by Lycona and Gary Habermas. So basically, I know their work back to back now. I've literally mastered Lycona's work and also Gary Habermas. I read Gary Habermas' PhD a couple of years ago when I was interacting with Ironrat on the resurrection. Since then, I've worked through most of his, if not, most of his articles, most of his lectures and debates. The same with Lycona. Also, I've listened to quite a lot of lectures, debates by Matt Slick, debates by Dan Barker. I've listened to many lectures by Dan Barker. He's an atheist, so I've been studying quite a lot about him, the way he debates and debates. So I listened to a lot of his debates over the year. I listened to quite a few Matt Slick debates. I listened to quite a few Matt Delonte debates. I listened to quite a few academic debates on Veritas on a variety of subjects. I listened to Richard Swinburne, a few of his debates. I've listened to quite a few Acts Apologetic 17 debates, Shimon debating in Islam, and Dr. Greenfield's debates on Islam with Muslim scholars, and Shannon's, the guy who is connected to David Wood of the Acts Apologetic 17. So I listened to quite a few debates on Islam with Islamic scholars, William Lane Craig with Shabir Ali, quite a few of those debates. Quite a few debates with James White and Islamic scholars. So there's been a lot of that. I've worked a lot on those debates. So I listened to a lot of debates by James White, by the Ex-Apologetic 17 guys, who do a show, I think, called Jesus or Muhammad, and a guy called Dr. Greenfield, I think his name is. I've listened to quite a few of his debates with Islamic scholars, and he's excellent. He's really, really good. So I must have listened to at least 200-300 debates this year, over the year, at least. Before I go out doing street preaching, that week I would listen to 5-6, maybe 5-6 debates through the week as I go out street preaching. So I've gone through a phenomenal amount of debates and studied them. I've also listened to various lectures by Dominic Crossan and N.T. Wright. So I spent a lot of time over the year studying Dominic Crossan. I really like him. I don't agree with him. I don't agree with his scholarship, but I really, really like him. I like Dominic Crossan. He's a lovely guy, but we're completely different from each other. Scholars that, even though I don't agree with, that I find intriguing, that I want to study more. I think Dale Allison is a guy that I've listened to a couple of his lectures, and he's written a book. I'd love to get hold of that book. So if anyone wants to buy me a belated Christmas present, the book by Dale Allison on historical Jesus studies, I can't remember what it's called, but that's a book that I would really like to read. But I've read papers by him, and I've listened to his lectures, and he's a scholar that I find very intriguing and like to study more. Don't agree with him, but I'd like to study more. I did quite a bit of study on. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi guys, you alright?
Not so far.
I'm breathing.
What's
I'm not dead yet.
I know Nadia. What's your name, sir?
Chris.
Hi, Chris. How you doing, mate?
Good. How are you?
Okay, mate. I'm just pontificating some of the scholars and things that I've read and stuff. Is there anything you want to talk about, or?
Not in particular. Carry on.
Yeah. General Christian atheist relations. If you have a message to get out, we can hold off.
Well, it's nice to see you anyway, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was just talking about some scholars that stood out to me that I'd like to know more about. One is Dale Allison. So he's a guy that I find intriguing, and I read quite a bit of. I'd like to read more of Dr. Price, and yeah. What's happening, guys? Have you done your Christmas shopping?
Just got done yesterday.
Oh, well done, Chris.
Yeah. Better late than never.
Well done, mate. I've not done any, to my shame. I've got to get some food today for the church, so I've got to do that. So, but as far as presents, I haven't got anything at the moment, apart from picking up a load of toys from a day centre to wrap up for kids on the estate. You know.
I must have been a bad girl. No present for Christmas for me this year.
No present. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll send you a kiss. That's a Christmas present for you. Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
What's that you're eating, Nadia?
Cheerios.
Cheerios. Every time I see your videos, I see a packet of Cheerios.
Absolutely.
They've not sponsored you, have they?
I wish they had. Oh. So you know what I say.
A model. You're a model for Cheerios.
Women, Spanish to true empiricism, and German to Alexander Carson.
Have you read anything good over the year, Chris? Anything?
As far as what?
Whatever you've been reading, anything? Philosophy.
I tend to read a lot of. No, I haven't gotten into a whole lot of philosophy this year. I've been just reading a bunch of fantasy fiction novels. Believe it or not.
Oh wow!
I've taken my time doing that sort of stuff.
Cool. What fantasy fiction, mate?
I don't know if you're familiar with an author by the name of R.A. Salvatore.
I've heard of him. Yeah, I've not read him though.
He does quite a bit of Forgotten Realms novels, and I've been liking that. So, how about you?
I haven't read much novels this year. Not much. Just mainly. I was just saying about this book called The Mystery of Reason. It's a Catholic theologian, philosopher. So I read this year, which I really enjoyed. And basically, it goes through the history of philosophy, but it's a very easy read. You know, like it's not too heavy. It's quite popular, and then this book by John Lennox, God's Undertaker. And also, I read a Life of Rudolf Bultmann as well, which I enjoyed. Who's a scholar on New Testament studies. He's dead now, but so yeah, those are some things that I've enjoyed. So, what will you be doing at Christmas, guys?
Well, I'll be probably long since out of food and um, well, waiting around for the I don't know, New Year, my new installment of food stamps and whatever else.
I'll be taking my 5-year-old to her grandparents' house and just having a dinner there and everything.
Wow, that's great, Chris.
How about you? What are you up to?
I've been asked to organise the church that I go to. They do a Christmas meal every year. I've just started going to the church. I've been going for a few months. And the pastor asked me to organise this Christmas meal for the people. So I have no idea how many are going. All I know is we've bought 3 turkeys. I've got about 60 quid that someone's donated to go and get the rest of the food. So I've got to go and do shopping for that and make sure I get people to cook it on the day and all that. So that's what I'll be doing. Basically, I'll be organising a meal for, I don't know, about 20 to 30 people on Christmas Day. So a bit concerned about it because I'm not a great organizer. My uncle's good at cooking, so hopefully he'll come down, and a couple of ladies we're going to pick up, and they'll be down there. And I've got people to cook some of the turkeys on Christmas Eve, and then we'll just take them in on the day, on Christmas Day. So that's me done, Chris.
Sounds like you got a lot of work ahead of you. Good luck, by the way.
Thanks, man. So do you go on Google Hangouts a bit, Chris, or?
Not normally. No. For some reason, I felt the urge to go on tonight, and I came across her and was listening to her hang out, and then we joined another, and just kind of been listening and trying to learn a bit and throw my 2 cents in where I can.
Are you an atheist or agnostic or?
Non-believer.
Non-believer. And what?
Like I said, I hate to throw a label on myself.
Yeah.
But
So over the year, have you listened to Google Hangouts? Have you listened to them and stuff, or?
most of my entertainment, if you want to call it that, or knowledge has come from YouTube lately. I've been doing YouTube for about 2 years. So.
And what's your impressions of the argument for and against faith in God?
I seem to relate more so with the non-believers, atheists, whatever you want to call them, more so than Christian believers. No offense.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that any argument or anything that resonates with you, like like anything that something that stands out for you that was a major influence to you in your thinking?
I find the Christian God, because I was a Christian before. I find the Christian God to be somewhat of a dictative, authoritative figure, and it's not something I wanna be behind, you know. And I've researched some other religions and stuff. Like nothing really suits me, so kind of just in my own little world here.
Mm-hmm. Have you any like concept of what Christianity is?
Sorry, what's that?
Do you have any concept? If I was to ask you what is Christianity, would you know what it is?
I could give you my definition of it.
Well, should we dialogue together just for a few minutes?
No problem.
What's that, Nadia?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Go on, Chris.
Oh, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Is it okay? We just dialogue because I don't get to meet a lot of atheists like you because I feel a lot of people, unbelievers like you, because I feel like we could do a bit of dialogue just together for a few minutes.
Why don't you start?
Well, what would you say? What would you say Christianity is?
I think it was man's attempt early on to explain the unexplainable in pretty much any aspect of life, and it was widely accepted and spread in many different religions, and such a tradition that it even carried on to what it is today. I know I'm speaking more so upon any religion there, not specifically Christianity, but I think you get the gist of it.
So let's imagine what you're saying is correct. What are the implications of that then?
Of me believing that there isn't a God?
Yeah.
Or that
If what I'm saying is, if we take what you're saying is true, it's correct, then I let's imagine like I accept what you're saying, so I'm gonna put my Christianity to the side now, and I'm gonna go with you and say, okay, what you're saying is correct. Next step then for me, putting myself in your shoes, is what is the implication of that? What are the implications of that?
well, it'd be first and foremost understanding your place in the universe and trying to better understand where you came from and why you are here today and further explore the other possibilities in the universe and why things are the way they are, like many scientists are trying to do today, and that's what I'm fascinated with. There's a lot of concern in the community of debates and so on that without religion, without Christianity, that it would be a more unmoral world, as it were, and I don't see that there to be any truth in that whatsoever. I think any non-believer can do or say or perform any moral action that a believer can, and that's just what I stand for. What's your take on that?
Well, I think taking it to its logical conclusion, um, trying to find try and find my purpose and meaning in the universe, then it would mean that I have to invent something myself. I would have to come up with something because I don't see where that meaning would come like outside myself. So I'm just thinking it out from us, thinking it out, accepting what you're saying. For me, it would lead to the logical conclusion that I would come to is, well, wait a minute, if we've evolved, if we came by a big bang and we evolved, and knowing a little bit about philosophy, the history of philosophy, I would think, well, my options are I could be a utilitarian, I could be a stoic, I could be whatever these things, but would they really satisfy me? Would they really answer the big question? And I'm not so sure that they would. And I'm not so sure where I would get my purpose in the universe.
Right, that's all relative to to anybody. It all depends on who you are, but for me personally, I wouldn't default back to, like I said, what our ancestors did, and relying on this one answer that is the answer to all answers, as they say, just because I don't understand or don't know something.
But
would be my answer.
But the thing for me is,
and again, it's all relative.
If I accepted what you're saying, just for the sake of argument, as true, even though it's not, just get this for a second. If I accepted, what I'm trying to do is get inside your head and accept what you're saying, and then think out the implications. But if I accepted what you said, even though it was not true, but it is true, right? Then the thing that would confront me, the main thing that would confront me would be reality.
Right. A sense of, some would say, emptiness or
no,
hopelessness or something.
No, not that. That's more like sort of some kind of angst. No, what I mean by reality, I mean, if I accepted what you're saying, I would be confronted with reality in terms of the experiences of life, the experience of human relations, the experience of the surroundings and the environment, and the experience of the universe. So that's the reality that I would be confronted with. So the question that I would have to ask for myself is, does my experience of this reality and the position that I've come to help me to understand this reality? So in other words, what I'm saying is, I would be if I took your position, the thing that would hit me first of all, mostly, is I have to deal with reality. Reality is all around me, in me. Without getting philosophical, that's what I'm going to experience day to day. And the question would be is, does this position that I've taken, i.e. your position, does this fit reality? Would that be fair implication fair question to ask?
I'm not sure quite what you mean by it fits reality, because that is exactly what you would be experiencing. There would be unanswered questions, is what you're saying.
No. What I'm saying is, I'm saying that if there is no God, if Christianity is not true, then that means I'm just stuck on this like little planet with everybody else. But there is a planet, there are individuals. So is my position in life, does it explain this reality? Does it fit this reality? And so, for example, how are we to live, like morally speaking? How are we to conduct ourselves morally? Does my new position, i.e. your position, give me a model that fits reality to how to live?
There's been groups of people, tribes and things like that have followed the golden rule, if you will, do unto others as you'd like to be done to yourself. That seems to be, over time, almost genetic, like it's there without being told, without you having to be told that it's there. You know what I'm saying? I would know that without having to be told that. The difference between good and bad, if that answers your question.
But to me, that is not living consistently with your position, you see. To me,
how so?
Because presumably in your reality, the one that I'm accepting, we've evolved. Is that correct or not?
Yes.
Okay, so if we've evolved, there's been an evolutionary development, then there is no golden rule. How do we get a golden rule from that? What I'm saying is, if we've evolved, I'm accepting your reality. If we've evolved over billions of years, then there's never a point within that flow of history where there was a, an absolute right at any point of that history, because it's an ongoing development to a place that we don't know where we're going. So you can never say that there is a golden rule or whatever. We're just flowing in that history.
Right.
We're changing all the time, and what we say is a golden rule now could not necessarily be a golden rule in 100 years' time. So what I'm saying is, if I was going to be consistent to your reality, I could talk about a golden rule, but I couldn't justify it with my own basis of where I'm at in if I believed in evolution. So to me, that would put pressure on my worldview. If accepting your worldview, I'm you now. That would put pressure on me to think something's not quite fitting here.
Right. And there's going to be inconsistencies. You know, there's going to be major tragedies, people doing crazy, wicked things. But as a whole, I think the human race has, well, we obviously have come to the conclusion that we have to, for the majority, you know, not mass murder people, not, you know, do all these terrible things, or else we would just go extinct. There has to be, we have to work together toward the common goal to get things done. I mean, that's happened.
I know what you're saying there, but that's
I mean, even though it may change in the future, even though there's inconsistencies, there's a
but you're still operating on a level that is not consistent with with uh, with your evolutionary model of life. If you believe that you've evolved,
no. I think it would follow the evolutionary trend quite well, actually. The inconsistency.
right, could you just explain that why that is?
Well, I like to think that me and my fellow man act a little more civil than a group of caged chimpanzees, for example.
But
Yeah.
in the evolutionary model, are we animals? Humans are animals,
Are humans animals? I would think so.
right? So if we're animals, what differentiates us between other animals?
More highly developed brain, for one. The ability to think logically and you know, figure stuff out in a more appropriate manner. You know, a bigger frontal lobe and a less of um, aggressive.
You see, to, to me, there seems to be inconsistencies within it, because on the one hand, we want to give humans dignity, as saying that we have reason, but at the same time, we're saying that we're animals.
Yeah, why can't there be the two? That would be my question. There's going to be inconsistencies. Nobody's perfect. You know.
We even care to give animals dignity. We have, say, house cats and such. We make sure they're bathed and groomed and well fed and so on. Even pet them.
Yeah, but we don't put animals in prison.
There is animal shelters, and people do put their animals away.
You tell me a dog that's been to court
No, the dog's probably been shot otherwise.
and been sentenced to murder, sentenced to life imprisonment for murder. Do you see what I'm getting at? What I'm trying to say is that there is a difference. Yet in your worldview there is a similarity that we are animals. So what I'm saying is, how do we, if that's the case, how do we differentiate between, if we say something's right and we say something's wrong and we're an animal, what makes it right and wrong from our perspective as human animals? Why is it what we do right and wrong as compared to, say, an ape or a dog? What is the demarcation?
I would say the ability to think the way we think. I really have no other
Yeah,
answer for you. I mean, this
If I may,
I would agree. Sorry.
if I may,
Yeah.
okay. So, in the case of animals, they are not regarded as quote unquote moral agents because, in no small part, because not just that intelligence, but that because that lack thereof is something that you call like a mitigating factor. Like someone, you can even observe this in humans. Someone who is mentally disabled will have that regard as a mitigating factor when
be
when
treated
they
differently.
commit some kind of act. Yeah, and the well, I guess your ability to carry out this moral judgment is well expected to be fulfilled in those who are capable of it, right? And when it's not fulfilled, when say the moral judgment is erroneous, that's where culpability arises, right? There's no longer that mitigating factor of being incapable of moral judgment. The moral judgment is, the failure to make the moral judgment is, well, from the point of view of those doing justice now as it's done in much of the world, some kind of choice for which the person's held accountable.
Okay. Here's my point. Now we're getting to the heart of the matter. For me, what it all comes down to is rationality. Like you said, Chris. So I agree with what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, Nadia. But it all comes down to this issue, whether mitigating circumstances or not. It all comes down to reason, really. And for me, I have to ask myself, well, how did human reason come about? How did it develop the way it did? And is that really explained by our model, by the model of evolution and the model of whatever we know about reason? Does it really explain that? And that's where it starts to break down for me, because in my journeys the last few months, reading and thinking, I think it comes down to this issue about reason, about why is there rationality, why are we able to do rational thought, and does a materialistic point of view explain that? And I'm not so sure it does. So I mean, if you want to give me an explanation of how, from an evolutionary point of view, we got rationality, if you can explain to me coherently, then I would be very, very much moving in your direction.
Well, again, it all comes down to my point I made earlier. Is if something, well, let's say it wasn't evolution. Let's say it was something that we don't know about. If it's unexplained, then the only other answer has to be God, right?
No, I think that's a cop-out, Chris. I think that's a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out from your point of view, and it's a cop-out if anybody else tries that from a Christian point of view.
What would then where would you find yourself?
I believe, you see, when you're talking to an atheist, you've always got to remember two things. One is every atheist is different, but there are generally some general principles that most atheists kind of work on. But you also got to take into consideration every atheist is different, and the same with Christians. A lot of Christians will have certain general principles, like, but then every Christian is different in terms of maybe the way they approach apologetics. And for me, a fundamental default position in my apologetics is it's got to record with reality. And the reality is that we have reason. And so it's a fundamental, central aspect of human experience. And so therefore, the model that can explain this reality is going to be the right model. And so I asked for an evolutionary understanding of how we have reason. And then I look at maybe other models, we could say, the presuppositional argument about logic. And I take that argument where we talk about is the basic laws of logic immaterial or material, and things like that. I don't know if you've heard those kind of arguments. I take those kind of arguments, I take the evolutionary model, and I weigh them up. And the one that seems to be more akin to explaining or helping me understand the reason within the universe seems to be the presuppositional Christian idea rather than an evolutionary model. So it's not a case of what we don't know. It's a case of what we do know. Reason is here, and materialism, the idea that we're just material objects, doesn't fully explain why we have reason, the role of the centrality of basic laws of logic and things like that. It doesn't fully explain. It breaks down. And then to try and flip it back and say, well, yeah, well, we might not know fully explain reason, and it might transcend the material, but there might be other forms of material that we don't know about, or other forms of experience that we don't know about that will explain reason. Well, to me, that's a cop-out, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, well, I'm not saying you, but a lot of atheists will say, well, that all there is the material. But yeah, when we talk about the laws of logic, basic laws, they transcend the material, but there might be something more in our experience that is beyond the material, but is material, but we don't know what it is, so we can't answer it. But that doesn't mean to say you Christians are right. To me, that's a cop-out, because you're not being consistent with your own materialist position, which breaks down under analysis.
I'm perfectly comfortable in saying that I don't know where reason comes from, and I was speaking for myself personally when I brought up evolution and then threw it back to Christianity. I don't know where reason comes from. Maybe Nadia has something to say on this subject here.
Yeah. Well, the first part is, well, people don't have quite as much reason as they think they do. There's some pretty obvious limits, like, for instance, the complexity of sentences in the spoken language often presents a matter of people's limitations when someone has stilted speech. Another is that the even relatively simple computational tasks in large enough instances are essentially guaranteed to provoke an error in that computation. And one also observes things like behavioral economics, where clearly suboptimal strategies are pursued within human behavior, effectively as a result of what are effectively heuristics that are not entirely rationally justifiable, and it can be pretty clearly explained and regarded as artifacts of evolutionary history. And it gets worse because animals seem to be smarter than we give them credit for too. When chimpanzees and so on were tested for, I think, a number of spatial tasks, like trying to track larger number of objects than humans can generally do across their field of vision. Well, they were capable of carrying out that cognitive task in larger instances and so on. They also seem to, I think, have some kind of arithmetic ability. Not sure exactly what, but there's a few different areas where these animals can essentially best humans in terms of cognitive abilities. From there, you can move on to well, I suppose a brain structure comparison that readily kind of explains the development of, well, more complex brain structures that give rise to the human cognitive computational power, and there's something of a
I understand that.
false kind of progress narrative and so on that ends up having an analogy made to it, but even so, what it demonstrates is rather clear that the development is very explicable.
I understand, Nadia.
Okay, go ahead.
I understand what you're saying, but that doesn't answer the question. The question is why is the rationality? We can analyze psychology and sociology and neuroscience. Obviously, have a role to play, and they give us information about the way the brain works, etc. So denying and cutting edge research on those various topics and things that you shared are very interesting and helpful to a certain degree, but they don't answer these fundamental questions: is why is the rationality, and how we got rationality, and those fundamental questions are, there's a guy called Paul Davies who's a physicist, and he's not a Christian, he's not a believer, and as a physicist, he wanted to write a book just exploring and thinking about the meaning of life and whatever. And the one thing that he came to a conclusion at the end of his book is this issue of rationality. Why is the rationality in the universe? And why is the consciousness? And this is the crux of the question. I was thinking of a guy called Philo. He was a Jewish philosopher, and he wrote quite a lot about the logos and about reason, and that the logos, there was this logos or reason principle within the universe. And throughout time immemorial, philosophers have pontificated these issues, and we've been able to explore the universe, we've been able to gain knowledge, and so there's this principle of reason. And yet, if we looked at our implications, of the universe, how the universe began, is it consistent with that? Is it consistent that at one point there was nothing, there was no rationality, there was no reason, and then some bang, an inflation, and then within a period of time, however many billions of years, we get the Earth, and then we get reason developing through an evolutionary process. Does that answer why we have reason? And I don't think it does. It seems to be inconsistent.
Well, I don't think it's an entirely faithful description, though.
Well, reason. Would you agree that reason is an ordered process? The basic laws of logic is an ordered process. That's what I mean by reason at the moment. Not just the rational faculty, but I'm on about basic ways of rationally thinking, like the law of non-contradiction. Would you say that's an ordered process?
I wouldn't I would say it's a different category. I'd say it's
Does
you
it
know, a descriptive model
Does
of
have order?
the universe and
Does it have order?
linguistic conveyance. Go ahead.
Does it have order? Does the law of non-contradiction, when you use it, does it have order? Is it able to order our experience?
It doesn't order our experience, but at the very least, orders our. We use it to
But does
order our own communication.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a color, we make coloring books to
So it,
order drawing within the lines, right?
so it
Go
brings,
ahead.
so it brings order, yeah?
It doesn't bring it about.
Order in terms of when we're in communication, in terms of when we're trying to build structures or build anything or do anything, if we use a basic law of logic like that, it helps us to get some kind of order in what we're doing. Would you agree with that? So, for example, if
We use it as an instrument to assist doing so. Yes.
yeah, so if I'm going to do scientific reasoning, scientific work in the work that you do, I'm going to have to use some basic laws of logic to get the job done, to get an ordered process so I can get on with the task. Now, the point what I'm trying to get at is...
Hang on. You say we have to use them. We can use plenty of other kinds of principles here.
Yeah, I'm not saying you can't use other principles, but you're going to have to use the basic laws of logic anyway.
No.
Yeah.
No, they're not transcendental.
No, Nadia, it doesn't matter whether they're transcendental or not. You're going to have to use basic... It's not even worth arguing about. You're going to have to use basic laws of logic to do whatever you're doing. The point what I'm getting at is that if we believe that there was nothing there at the beginning, how did we get order, logical order, from nothing? How did that happen? I know we're saying it's a process of a big bang and a process of evolution, but at what I can't understand is how you can get logical order come from nothing. And that's what I can't get my head around. How you get that?
We don't know that we have logical order. First off, and second off, what we have didn't come from nothing. At the very least, we don't know that it did.
Okay, so here's what was interesting. Chris argued that he accused Chris. I say this with the greatest respect because I really respect you, mate. Yeah, but you said that you implied that Christians make arguments from things that we don't know.
No, I said people tend to fall back, like when you can't explain it with anything else.
Yeah.
They tend to fall back on you know.
Yeah, and that what I'm saying is that's what I often see the atheists do. When you push an atheist, then they do the same, and this is an example in this area of was there nothing.
Well, I said myself, I'm perfectly fine accepting that I'm uncertain of something. I'm okay with that. It doesn't eat at my core, but I you know.
Because that suits you. It suits you because if you don't know whether there was nothing or not, then it means you can't be pushed in the corner, and it means that you can just hold your hand up and say, well, I don't know. And so the point is from what we know scientifically, did the universe have a beginning or not? From what we know at the moment. Did it have a beginning? From what we know?
What we know, or at least have empirical evidence of. Would strongly indicate something on the order of a beginning. On the other hand, there is some uncertainty still. Oscillatory models of the universe, like loop quantum cosmology, are still plausible, as well as pocket universes, which would... go ahead.
That's all theoretical. What do we know at the present time, from a scientific point of view, about the universe, did it have a beginning or not from what we know? All that stuff is theoretical. We want the hard data. What do we know from the hard data at the present time? Did the universe have a beginning or not? Simple question.
Simple. Okay. Simple question demands a complex answer, but I'll answer simply anyway. We don't know.
Right. Well, I would say that at the present time, we had a beginning. That's what at the moment people think. Am I correct in that, Chris, or not?
I would say most people would think that.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. So,
I'd also acknowledge that, but at the same time, that belief is not knowledge.
so that but that's a hard fact for you to grasp. That's a hard fact for you to accept.
I think even a harder fact would be that harder fact to think about would be, maybe there wasn't a beginning. To me personally, that's harder to comprehend than a beginning.
No, you've got to deal with the facts. Do we have facts or not, Chris, that the universe had a beginning? Do we have facts?
I think Nadia said it quite well. We don't know.
Well, I
also said that the evidence leans toward a beginning.
I'm not an expert in this area, but I don't think you're representing the physicist world at the moment. People like Krauss and people like that are not representing fully the field of physics.
Well, I didn't take it.
There might be string theory and all the rest, but they are things that are theoretical. We're on about what we know. I know you atheists like to hope string theory works or whatever it is that is being bandied about at the moment. But at the moment, we have certain facts. What are those facts about the beginning of the universe? And you know what those facts are. And yet you don't want to face that they're there, that the universe did have a beginning. And if it did have a beginning, then it came from nothing.
Well, no, I give a properly qualified answer that did acknowledge the weight of the evidence behind that notion that there was a beginning and so on. Yeah, you didn't. If you wanted to remove the qualification, you got the dumbed down. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
All right. There is more than I don't know to say. Right.
I understand that. We'll finish this off. We'll finish this off in a second. I've got to get on with the sermon. I understand there are technicalities in these areas, and I'm not saying that I am fully informed about the technicalities, but I know that there are technicalities that we have to consider concerning this topic. And there are other people, even yourselves, more equipped to deal with those technicalities. But I know that the general field does not accept string theory at the moment. It's only being bandied about, etc. The general consensus at the moment is there was a beginning to the universe. That's the general consensus at the moment. If I'm wrong in that, someone correct me. If there is a beginning, then that is not consistent with why there is rationality in the universe, why we have reason, why that's the case. Because it doesn't. You can't get from non-rationality to rationality. You can try and put billions of years in between, but it's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. It doesn't work. So what you try to do as atheists is you're trying to find string theory. You try to muddy the waters with semantics, philosophical semantics about the word nothing. Like Krauss says that, when he talks about nothing, he doesn't actually mean nothing and things like that. And you play around semantically with that word. You play around semantically around those issues. But it's very simple. How does reason come from non-reason? And to me, that is an example of how a materialist perspective breaks down. I'll let Chris finish off, and then I've got to go because I've got to get on with the sermon, Chris, and stuff. So, thanks for coming.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me. I'd like to just say that I don't. A lot of these topics, like where the universe began, I can't myself say that there was a beginning to it. I am completely uncertain that there even was. I mean, I like to anybody that says they know that for certain doesn't know what they're talking about. There's a lot of things unexplained, things out there to learn about, and I urge everybody to follow that, to go and explore and try to figure things out on your own, and not be blinded by anything. Search for answers and come to your own conclusions. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. I would say to that, to me, it's philosophically you can work it out. Basically, if the universe had a beginning, then how did reason come from there? If the universe didn't have a beginning, then we're talking about eternal recurrence, or that somehow there are these multiple universes, and that means the material things are eternal. And if they're eternal, how do they have a sufficient cause to be eternal? That would be self-contradictory. So that's what I would say. Chris, I'm going to go. Nadia, thank you for coming, and love to everybody. Thank you so much for coming down, guys. I enjoyed talking to you, and really appreciated that you came down.
All right, Runga, Chris, I'll try to round you up momentarily. Okay.
All right.
All right. Take care, guys. God bless. Bye now.